Welcome to the Galien Foundation, a week of biomedical innovation, webinars celebrating the best of the best in the life science innovation to improve the human condition. I'm Gil Bash. I'm a member of the Galien Foundation Executive Committee and proud to be the judge of this category. Today, I'm chair and moderator of a one-hour discussion highlighting these nominees, exceptional nominees, in the Incubator, Accelerator, and Equity category of the annual Prix Galien USA Awards program. The webinars taking place this week serve as essential background for the awards. The Galien Foundation, the largest event, will be held on Thursday evening at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. It takes place in conjunction with our annual Galien USA Forum, which hosts speakers representing top scientific experts, biopharmaceutical business executives and entrepreneurs, and leaders in public health from around the world. All told, more than 900 representatives of our nominated companies and invited guests will be joining us in person this Thursday. Because the mission of the Galien community is to improve the human condition, we've developed this webinar series to give our nominees in different categories greater visibility in describing the highs and lows of their long journey to a breakthrough medical discovery. I should add that many, if not most, of these science and product innovation leaders will benefit from our special dedicated group of nominees today, investors from the public, private, and academic centers that perform a vital service in providing strategic advice, partnering, and capital to drive innovation in diverse new areas of science. In addition to hearing about their missions, mandates, and areas of expertise, we will cover today what relates to the central question: beyond financial and intellectual resources, how are these organizations working to advance promising ideas into the marketplace? With that in mind, I'm going to ask each of our panelists, our Prix Galien finalists, to describe a bit about their organizations, of course, introduce themselves, and talk about how they work as mentors, as investors, as scientists, and also as entrepreneurs. How do they work with the companies that they champion? It's a pleasure for me to really have these folks with us today. I had the chance to chat with many of them beforehand. I also have the opportunity of spending time with them on Thursday. I think I just want to say to everyone here, to be a Prix Galien finalist is one of the greatest honors of our category. So welcome to all of you, and congratulations to all of you and your business communities, and also to the organizations that you champion. Obviously, being affiliated with each of you is in itself a mark of great achievement. So welcome. Now, before I begin with some of the questions that many of you have asked, you've sent in to ask these experts, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, where they're from, and talk very briefly about their organizations. Let me start with Kika. Kika, could you talk about yourself in the organization? And then Ying, I'm going to turn to you next, and then Barbara. Please, Kika, tell us a bit about your organization.
Thank you so much, Jill. It's an absolute honor to be here, and quite humbling also to be in such good company with the other nominees. My name is Kika Armata. I'm the Associate Director at the McGill Dobson Center for Entrepreneurship here at McGill University in Montreal. We are the hub for entrepreneurship at McGill University, and our mission is really to teach, coach, and support entrepreneurs stemming from all the schools and faculties and research centers affiliated with McGill to help them build innovative companies with a purpose.
Thank you so much. Ying, could you share a bit about yourself and your organization?
Yes, thank you, Bill. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Ying Yan. I'm the director of Center for Life Science Ventures, an incubator for early stage life science companies at Cornell University. Our incubator focused on very early stage of the company, from company formation to the Series Seed. And we help develop the technology, put together the team, and also develop a business plan to prepare them for investment. I used to be a consultant for life science companies, so used to advise large companies. And now I'm thoroughly enjoying working with these 2 to 3 people baby companies.
Thank you so much. Barbara, share a bit about yourself and the organization.
Well, thank you, Gil, and thank you, Ying. And can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Please.
Okay, because I hear some background noise. Thank you all, and I'm just thrilled to be in just the mix of these people here, and hopefully learn from you too. I am Barbara Maruziak. I am the co-director of the Mayo Clinic, Arizona State Healthcare University's Healthcare Accelerator, and I represent the ASU side. What's really unique about us is that, we have brought together like 2 visionary groups in that. Mayo Clinic, which is a platinum healthcare system with access like to patient data and clinical capital, and then ASU, which is an academic institution ranked #1 in innovation and research this year. We really pride ourselves on our accelerator, looking at early stage, whether medical device, life sciences, biotechnology, and we feel we kind of co-develop with companies when they come part of our cohort, which we keep very small because we want to know them intimately. We want to help them make their vision come true. So we are starting our 7th year as an accelerator, and very excited about what we're producing out there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Christopher, I know you're calling in from London. I want to thank you. Obviously, we're giving you an extended part of your day. It's early to late evening in your way. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Gil, and thank you for that introduction. I'm, as you said, Chris Henshaw. Today, I'm representing Cube Labs, where I'm the Chief Scientific Officer. I've been involved in life science innovation in several different formats for over 40 years, having originally been an academic molecular biologist. In the context of today's discussion, Cube Labs is what we call a venture builder. It isn't exactly an accelerator. It isn't exactly an incubator. It's certainly not a venture capital organization, but it has some of the aspects of all of these organizations. And like the last speaker, we want to have skin in the game of the organizations, the companies that we form. If you look at this little tagline over here, it says, "We enable innovation." And we have another tagline, which is, "We create startups." So between creating startups and enabling innovation, it sort of tells you what we do. And hopefully I can go into more detail as to what is unique about the way we operate in the ongoing discussion.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you so much. And Sebastian and Arnab, let me turn to you to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sebastian, you first.
Thank you, Jill. From my side, so I'm a partner with Avant Bio, and we're very much excited to be part of this, and we focus on the life science industrials. So maybe a bit of a contrarian take on the ecosystem. We're investing in the picks and shovels of the industry and not the therapeutics themselves. So we really believe that in order to enable the entire ecosystem, we should be investing in all the tools, the technologies, the services that are really accelerating discovery, development, and manufacturing in this space. And so it's a space that we've carved out, and we feel we're pretty uniquely positioned in that. And we primarily focus on kind of the early growth side of things.
Thank you. You're truly unique. Thank you for that. And Arnab, a bit about yourself and the organization.
Yeah, thanks, Gil, and thanks again to the Galien Foundation for having us as a nominee.
It's mutual, my friend. We honor you and each of you and your organizations and the companies that you support to improve the human condition. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So I'm Vice President of Medicinal Chemistry at the Caliber Skaggs Institute for Innovative Medicines. We're part of the Scripps Research Institute, which is a basic biomedical research institute in San Diego, California. Caliber was started about 13 years ago to discover drugs, both in the nonprofit academic sector, to be able to advance human health across many diseases. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to tell you some more details about that. We kind of fall in that incubator and accelerator space, and have been very proud to now put 15 molecules into clinical trials, and exceptionally excited to be here with this fantastic group of folks today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oliver, could you share a bit about yourself and the organization you're representing?
Certainly. Thank you so much, Jill, and thank you to all of the other panelists. It's a complete honor to be nominated for this award and to be here today in front of all of you guys to tell you a little bit more about Nucleate. So, as I mentioned, my name is Oliver. I'm one of the co-founders and currently serve as the executive director of Nucleate. And Nucleate is really a global movement. So we're a nonprofit operating across 40 cities, across 22 countries. And our mission is really to empower the next generation of biotech leaders. We do this by providing open access educational programs that help folks take that next catalytic step out of academia into industry. Our flagship program, the Activator, is a equity-free pre-accelerator program where we help folks start life science companies out of their academic research. And we do this completely for free, and it's volunteer-led. So it's really a global movement started by PhD students who sort of discreetly recognized the challenges that existed in sort of the academic translation ecosystem and started on a mission that's become a global organization to help solve those problems.
Very impressive. Thank you for that. Deepak and Megan and Isaac, introduce yourselves, please. Let me start with Deepak. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks a lot, Gil. My name is Deepak Hegde. I'm an economist and I do research on commercializing science. I'm a professor of strategy and entrepreneurship at New York University's Stern School of Business, and I'm also the founder of the Endless Frontier Labs. At the Endless Frontier Labs, our mission is to convert breakthrough science into investable milestones and eventually societal progress without the demo day drama. We run a 9-month zero equity global program for seed stage startups that treats translation very much like economists treat capital allocation under uncertainty. We define priors for our startups. We specify falsifiable milestones that resolve uncertainty, and we update on evidence. We organize mentor pods and run 8-week milestone setting sessions where evidence beats anecdotes. Our graduates include Haystack Oncology, a residual RNA startup spun out of Johns Hopkins that was acquired by Quest Diagnostics for $450 million. ImmuneAI, which combines single cell and AI to map the human immune system and has raised over $550 million. And Algen, a spinout from Jennifer Doudna's labs, which recently closed a $555 million deal with AstraZeneca to bring its gene therapies to the markets. Across 7 cohorts, our 316 alumni have raised $2.6 billion and are worth $8 billion in aggregate. Almost half of our graduates are women-led. In short, we believe in fewer buzzwords and more Bayesian updating, and it is a particular honor to share this stage with fellow nominees who advance the same cause. In fact, many of our seed stage companies are graduates of the excellent programs run by my fellow panelists. So thanks a lot for the incredible work you all are doing.
It's well said, and I think there's a tremendous amount of collaboration in this community. I'm often asked about market competition and organizations competing for other organizations, and I say that question, to your point, Deepak, is off base. I think we're all competing against disease, and unfortunately, disease seems to be winning. So collaboration actually becomes a superpower, and I think that I only wish there were 1,000 more like each of you to serve the community's needs. So thank you each again. Megan, please introduce yourself and your organization.
Yeah, great to be here, and thanks. It's an honor. And so, yes, I'm a partner and co-founder of a firm called Cross Border Impact Ventures. So we are an impact venture capital fund. We're based in Toronto. It's our first fund. We built a 90 million US AUM Fund 1 back in December 2021. And the thesis of the fund is we're looking at Series A health tech, med tech companies based in North America and Europe. And we're looking at device diagnostic and software for the most part, and specifically an unmet need and improving health outcomes for women and children globally. So we are an impact fund in the sense we're a mission-driven group where we're looking for return. We want to build successful businesses, but we're looking at companies that can scale their products not only in home markets but in emerging markets through grant funding partnerships and local partnership models. And I will also just caveat that we're not only looking at women-specific and children-specific diseases, we're looking at conditions where women and children are impacted disproportionately and differently. So basically general health care as it relates to general populations and then also specific to women and children.
Fantastic.
And
Fantastic.
yeah, it's great to be here.
It's a thrill to have you, and obviously you're pursuing vital priority areas. Thank you for that. Isaac, please.
Yes, well, thanks for having me, and delighted to be here. So I'm Isaac. I currently direct the Accelerator entity at EIT Health, the European Institute of Technology. Our mission is a bit of an unusual one in that we are, on the one hand, a grant funder administering European public money, somewhere between 20 and 50 million euros a year of grants going into startups and SMEs, but also into consortia connecting industry, hospitals, academic researchers, and others. But we are also a third-party neutral connecting platform for industry, the private sector, venture capital, private equity, and others to engage better with the European innovation ecosystem. So that's both supporting global players to access innovation born in Europe for global partnerships to de-risk, validate, and scale that innovation towards market and towards patients. But it's also helping entities that aren't European to navigate what are sometimes, speaking quite frankly, the Byzantine regulatory and reimbursement landscape challenges of the European ecosystem to help them to access European patients and European markets. So we are a publicly funded body that works a lot through and with the private sector in order to achieve our results. And just to give a couple numbers, we've been operational for about 12 years, worked with over 3,000 startups in that period, over 6 billion euros in fundraising raised by those companies, and close to 200 novel products and services from biotech, medtech, and digital launched to market and patients in Europe over that period. So very happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have all of you here, Isaac, and you, of course, and everyone. Each of you have such an impressive record as one of the judges of the category. I'll just say candidly, I wish we could give out 10 Prix Galien awards to the finalists. Alas, we're not able to, but that's why I emphasize in hearing your introductions, you truly deserve to be Prix Galien finalists. And I think the judging committee, which is not, it's an elite judging committee, I think we chose extremely well. Congratulations to all of you. I'm going to ask, because you handled the introduction so well and so tight, I'm going to ask a question of each of you. I'm going to do the round robin again, exactly the same order that I began in, because as I travel the world, this is the question I'm asked continuously. And I think that for those listening in, for those who will see this webinar on video, this is probably one of the most fundamental questions that can be answered by this expert group. So I'm always asked, how do organizations choose to support an enterprise? I mean, that's the thing. You get countless requests, emails, phone calls, networking calls from people who know people. I mean, I imagine a good part of your day is spent with that. Whenever I travel to another country and I speak, I would say if there's 1,000 people in the audience, there's like a line of like 300 people afterward to ask me the how do I connect to question. So I'm going to ask you the sort of the brutal question at the very beginning, because that's really what people want to know. I'm going to ask you to really provide a very tight answer, which is, how does your organization approach the partnering process? How do you select or seek or choose viable candidates for truly cutting edge investment? Kika, back to you.
Yeah, so I would say that our partnering process is really grounded in a strategic ecosystem collaboration. So, and long-term founder development. So at McGill, for instance, we work across all the faculties. There's 35 research centers across the university. We work with the university's Innovation and Partnership Tech Transfer Office. So they oversee a lot of the invention disclosures. For example, when a researcher submits a declaration of an invention, that's then referred to us at the Dobson Center, and we explore with them their potential for commercialization of their innovation. To our programs, we guide them in determining whether to launch a company, if that's the right fit for them, and we help develop their business acumen. Our engagement typically spans about 3 to 5 years with a startup. So it does go quite deep and enduring relationship. And the ventures are strategically positioned before entering the investment landscape. And of course, we really think of it as like an entire ecosystem, right? So there's the ecosystem within McGill, but then there's the investment ecosystem, there's the hospitals, there's all the other stakeholders that are involved. For example, we have a network of 143 investment firms that we work with. So we match each startup with investors that align with their sector, their stage, and their strategic goals. Over the past years, we have really strengthened international partnerships to expand our global influence. So I think it's really a matter of, understanding what's happening across the ecosystem, making sure that there's a pipeline coming in as well as one going out, and there's a mutual collaboration.
Thank you. Ying, over to you. Tell us a little bit about how you and Cornell select your partners.
Yeah. Similar to Kika's program, we are also deeply embedded in academic institution. So similarly, we have a very long cultivating process. From an idea to the company actually coming to the incubator, it usually takes 2 to 3 years to cultivate. And just to give the numbers, we talked to over 500 projects or teams, and there are over 100 companies formed, only over 30 companies actually incubate in our space, in our incubator. And in the selection process, I want to highlight a key mechanism we use is our advisory council. So we have a council comprised of half Cornell professors and staff and half Cornell alumni who are experts in entrepreneurship, early stage investment, and business executives. So they provide a very unique angle for the academic perspectives to complement the academic perspectives. They really focus on these companies' long-term investability. So it could be a brilliant academic idea, but if it doesn't have this long-term impact and in the end translate to the impact to the human condition, it's not a viable company for us to incubate. So with the cultivation process and the selection from advisory committee, we have a very strong process and very selective program.
Thank you. A real-world approach to innovation. Thank you very much for that. Barbara, over to you. Your approach, please. You're on mute, Barbara, but that's okay. Which means when people are on mute, it's a secretive process. We don't want our we do want our listeners to know. Barbara, what's your approach, please?
Okay, wonderful. Over here in Phoenix, between Mayo and ASU, a lot of the companies that approach us, which we're in the process right now, is they have ideas, they have brilliant devices, whatever the opportunity is. They're trying to figure out how to kind of get into the healthcare system. And I would say 40% of our partners that we're looking at are from other countries. And again, they're trying to figure out how do you get in the healthcare system? And they're looking at Mayo. They're looking at, the premier healthcare system out there. And that, so we go through an extremely selective process. As you can imagine, Our team is a combination of ASU, Mayo, physicians, business development, faculty, and that. And we go through and we really take a look at what is the partner bringing to the table? What is their background? What is the team like? Is the founder really engaged into this? Is the founder going to be willing to listen to comments and feedback that we have to help strengthen their company? So as we go through there, we're prioritizing innovation, market fit, and the team credentials. As they go through the process, we have an application process. There is actually an expert review that goes through the application. We're looking to see, do we have people, subject matter experts, both on ASU and Mayo's side, that can benefit this company? And then we start with interviews to see, is it a fit? And we get a good feel for these companies. Once they're accepted, they come into our 2-week, it's a very intensive program. We actually call it a 9-day interview because we get to know this company forwards, backwards, very in detail, and we want to help them bring their vision to life. Right now, some of the things we also bring to the table is because between the university and that, the whole Arizona ecosystem gets involved. From the state government, local city governments, they want to know too, how can they support? Are these companies willing to be part of our ecosystem and bring more value to what we have?
That's impressive. I think we're already seeing some pattern among academic medical institutions that have incubators and also some differentiation points in terms of the rigor and approach, each unique. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much for that. Christopher, over to you and over to the UK. What is the approach you use to select a partner?
Wish I had an hour to answer this question. It's a great question, and it's something that we have spent a lot of time in developing and evolving. And obviously, I don't have an hour, so I'm going to give you some bullet points of how we work. But the first thing to say on that is that we think of ourselves as a triple bottom line organization. We're interested in people, we're interested in the planet, we're interested in profits. We own a controlling equity in all the companies that we form. So we really have skin in the game for every single company that we're involved in. But having said that, there is another level of more granular decision making. For example, we're interested in moving from analog to digital. Many people are, but it's very much part of the process that we're interested in. We're also interested in, and I think in this sense, we may even have an advantage in Europe compared to the States, because of the way reimbursement works in Europe compared to the States. We're much more interested in prevention rather than treatment, if that is possible. And last but not least, we're interested in trying to select things which move from large hospitals and organizations to point of care treatment. So we use all of these factors in choosing opportunities. And then, of course, I was really excited by, I can't remember which panelist it was, but who talked about falsifiable milestones. And the reason that kind of triggered me a bit is because I'm kind of a fan of Karl Popper, the philosopher who basically invented what science is nowadays. And we really realize that it's very easy to spin stories and not really control them. So part of the core team is a team that has over 100 man-years of experience in startup formation, and we've sort of seen it all from all sides. And we know that part of it is actually not only knowing when to promote, but also knowing when to say something isn't quite working exactly the way it should be. So yeah, these are all the things. Now, I could give you some examples of this, but it would probably take too long.
No. Hopefully we'll have time, and hold on to that. Obviously you're speaking not only to process, but experience. And I salute you, Christopher. The reality is when you said people, planet, and profit, obviously we need profit in order to invest in the future of innovation. And I think we would all recognize that the planet doesn't need people, but people need the planet. So thinking about people and planet in harmony is not necessarily in conflict. It's a smart approach. Thank you for that. Sebastian, over to you. If you'd share with us a little bit about the processes that you go through to select your partners.
Yeah, absolutely. From our side, we're maybe a little bit later stage than some of the different groups here. And so for us, I think it boils down to I think three different core elements initially to get kind of our attention in terms of who we're trying to partner with and how to partner with. So on the first hand, again, it goes back to understanding our thesis. We try to publish and be loud about what we're focused on. And that's very much the enabling technology side of things. The second piece is we try to keep our doors open. So we're deeply engaged in the community and the ecosystem, attending a lot of different events. We're participating actively in all these different conferences, and it's a great spot to meet in person and to share kind of different areas of interest for the themes that we're excited about. But then we're also deeply connected to the broader ecosystem. So we work closely with different strategics, whether that's pharma or CDMOs, and try to understand their different pain points and have close ties to the rest of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So them coming to us, having that warm intro is always helpful as well. And in terms of keeping our doors open, we also have a portal on our website where companies can submit some of their information, and we do look at those and we do get back to those groups. And we're seeing around 600 companies a year that kind of come through and filter through our different platforms.
Quite a lot of sorting through to go. As I said earlier, I'm not surprised, and I'm sure after this conversation, that number will increase somewhat. Thank you for that. Arnaud, please share with us how you're approaching this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think similar to many of the other panelists, I mean, obviously it's important for us to be able to get in interesting ideas, especially in biomedical science, within environments of our own independent institutions. And I'd say of the 20 plus molecules that are either in the clinic or we're planning on putting in the clinic in the next year, about 25% of those are close collaborations with folks at Scripps Research and here in the San Diego community. But we've also felt it really important to build a network outside of Scripps and of San Diego. And much of that has to do with our work in global health, including working with folks like Christopher from a previous life for him, which is building tools and building actual drug discovery compounds, libraries, data for doing machine learning that are available to the entire community. That's allowed us to be able to move into areas like tuberculosis, malaria, HIV. And the beauty of the strategy for us has been in several of those cases, we've been able to make drug molecules that we've licensed to pharma, but also retained rights to be able to manufacture those same molecules in low and middle income countries. I think COVID and HIV are two such examples, but we're now seeing this idea of kind of really bridging health equity across the planet to be able to enable both the profit incentive and also, most importantly, medical impact.
It's very important, Arnaud. I think that people forget that that 70% of the world now comprises middle-income nations, that the economic tide is turning, and that those nations have expectations, and that poor health can actually be a detraction from economic progress. So that it's a very, very interesting point on the health equity side of selecting partners. Thank you for that. Oliver, you will appreciate obviously what Arnav and Scripps is doing from that approach of raising the level of economy as a not-for-profit sort of approach. You obviously have a very keen eye to possibility as opposed to the pure economic side of this. Tell us a little bit about how you select your partners.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it, a keen eye for possibility. I appreciate that. So yeah, we don't invest any money in the companies or the ventures that we support, nor do we take equity, which means that we can actually work with people while they're still in the lab. And in many cases, we're finding people that are pre-incorporation and really pulling them out of the lab and showing them that, path to starting a company may be possible. So we use a differentiated sort of network grassroots approach of over 800 volunteers distributed across 400 academic institutes to directly source talents and innovation from those institutes. In many cases, it's a leadership member who's on our team that sees a friend of theirs present something cool at lab meeting, right? And then afterwards they tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, have you thought about commercializing that? You should try this program out. It's free, it's easy, you're not gonna, you only have things to gain, right, from taking a shot at it. So we use that to identify the pool of people that apply to our program. And then we have sort of a staged process of application review where, the PhDs who are in our leadership across all of the different regions critically evaluate the applications to try and find those that are at the right stage where they could potentially think about starting a company in the next 6 to 12 months. We then interview our teams, and then we go through a matchmaking process, both in terms of co-founder matching as well as mentor and expert matching that goes on through the structured curriculum that we run in the spring. So the sum total of those things is to start with a very wide funnel, which is sourced at that grassroots level. And over time, by providing more and more resources and support, winnow it down to folks that are going to be, ready to start their venture in the next 6 to 12 months. And indeed, we do see that folks incorporate during the program, they incorporate 6 to 12 months after the program. Sometimes they fail so fast, they never even incorporate, right? And in so doing, they save everyone time and money, and they go on to that next step in their career. Maybe joining a venture fund or a pharmaceutical company.
Incredible. How many enterprises are you currently working with?
Yeah, so we've supported 670 teams over the past 6 years. 183 of those are now incorporated companies, and they've raised 570 million and created 800 jobs. So during the program, the support doesn't stop when the program is over. We have this large growing pool of alumni that we maintain contact with and continue to support through making targeted introductions to our partners and other folks in our network.
Incredible. Great work. Thank you very much for that. Deepak, please.
Great, thanks a lot. I very much borrow from the same playbook that many of my illustrious panelists here use. We use a battalion of experts, volunteers, academics, former startup graduates to source the startups. However, every year we actually begin by forming a hypothesis about technology push and demand pull before we select startups. For instance, recent years have brought in a programmable biology-driven technology push, whereas a year like 2019 featured a COVID-driven demand pull. And once we formulate this hypothesis, we search like truffle hunters rather than like tourists. And we have a very simple intake rule, which looks at 3 things. The science has to be non-obvious. The endpoints have to represent a massive step up in human health and human progress. And the third is that the milestones along the way have to be falsifiable. If these 3 are met, we lean in. If it's buzzword bingo, we pass. Just to give you an example, last year we had over 1,500 applicants for the 100 slots in the program. And we received applications from 8 startups with Nobel laureates actively involved as scientific founders or advisors. And we admitted only 2 of those because we still insist on non-obvious science paired with this testable milestone path as being the touchstone for entry into the program.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for that. Megan, choosing partners. What we figured out already is it's a really hard process, and obviously a lot of time and energy go into this. When you're looking for partners for the organization, what sort of process do you and your colleagues consider?
Yeah. And for us, we have a large pool of partners. So I guess just at a high level broadly, any partner that we would potentially engage in, first of all, we would need aligned values and aligned incentives. Those are like first and foremost. But if we unpack like how we define partners, so there's companies we may invest in, co-investors. We need strong partnerships with the co-investors we invest alongside, grant funders that fund grants for our portfolios, projects, implementation partners. So those are folks, either hospitals on the ground in emerging markets or NGOs in those markets. So we need partners, very strong partnerships there because we're not in those markets, and we rely on them to execute these projects alongside our portfolio. And then the technical and clinical experts that support us during due diligence or our portfolios as they're scaling. And then again, the strategics that was mentioned, we want to make sure that, you know, the strategics are looped in, and or public sector is looped in terms of making sure that our company's products will scale and be bought and sustainable over time. So those are kind of the general partners. So in terms of how we select these, just really quickly, you know, in terms of companies, again, it gets back to we have a very clear investment thesis and impact thesis. So we're looking for a specific return and impact in terms of lives accessed, improved and saved, and we report on those on a quarterly basis. So we have a double bottom line reporting, and we have an impact committee and investment committee that goes alongside that. And we look for disruptive tech, and with a moat where we can see innovation, and where we just want to make sure that we're investing in the best tech that will eventually scale
Yeah,
and
not,
get a
not an
great
easy,
return.
not an easy task, is it? Not an easy task.
No, but
You
we
have a
have
great-
9 companies, just really quickly, and they're really great companies, and we're looking at 2 more at this fund. So we will have a really great portfolio of 11 companies in this fund. So we're very excited.
Congratulations on that. Not easy, not easy. Isaac, over to you. Tell us a bit about the difficult process of sorting through, as we heard from Sebastian, you know, sort of 600 inquiries to come down to sort of a handful of companies that get support. What's your thoughts about all this?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the challenge of going last after such a great range of answers. So I'll try and say something original. So I'd say, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what everyone else said around both the push-pull factors, the need for solid, actually disruptive, and I highlight the word actually there, IP and technology with an affirmed market. One thing I might add there that I think is critical that we spend a lot of time working on is really looking at team and looking at leadership and confronting the hard truth that a lot of great researchers and great scientists don't necessarily make great startup founders and leaders. And that's not a critique. Those are different skill sets. But they do require very different approaches to you know, managing a project as an academic research project versus managing it as a business. So we have a whole range of activities that are about upskilling and reskilling researchers and also kind of matching technology with viable leaders that are really able to grow a company. But I guess what I would focus on maybe just very quickly here that I think is one of our unique selling points is that partner ecosystem that I was saying. So we have over 100 partners. That's industry, that's health insurers, but it's also some entities that weren't mentioned by others, things like public procurement bodies who are critical in Europe, who are actually procuring the innovation at term. And those are relationships that we've built up over more than a decade of really understanding, okay, you know, when you're talking about metastatic breast cancer as an indication, just to use that as an example, what are you really looking for as a big pharma player, as a hospital network, as a healthcare practitioner, as a public procurement body? And not the sort of 5 bullet points that we can kind of come up with quickly, but truly what is the technology that you are able and willing to engage in with the level of focus and financial resources to really make a difference? And there's really no substitute, as much as it would be nice if there were one, for trust, for long-term relationships, and for that kind of granular approach to really understanding what those types of entities are looking for.
Yeah.
So a lot of our work, besides getting our hands dirty with the companies actually working with them at volume, is that side. And I think if there's one secret to our success, it's been our ability to motivate real granular answers from those partners. And that's been allowed us to really pull innovation towards them faster than we otherwise would have been able to do.
Thank you for that. I'm also glad, Isaac, that you mentioned placing your bets on the leadership team. That actually reduces risk often. People who are proven to be successful, but you also mentioned in many cases when you said upskilling to understand that static leadership isn't going to be an advantage. I've often found that people who have exited successfully before sometimes over assume that they're going to be able to do it again. there's a little bit of hubris that goes on there, and I'm sure you're conscious of that. I want to give you an equal shot, so I'm going to actually start with you first on this question, because poor Kika has had the problem of being like, oh, brother, I'm first. So now she's going to have the luxury of listening to everybody else's answers. And, it's hard to believe that we have only 15 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you to answer this one really quickly, and actually a sentence or two, no more than that, please. So here's the question. We talked about selecting a partner. From my own experience in the category, there's risk. And at sometimes the risk becomes far greater than the benefit of the outcome of the enterprise, or even time being devoted to the enterprise. You have to make the difficult decision to say, we're going to put a knee down now, shifting sands, as some PE folks say. So I'm going to ask you, what are some of the risks you see that become real warning signs that perhaps this is not going to get long-term support from your organization? And I think this will benefit, of course, companies that you come in contact with that listen to your conversation, because they'll understand that it's their job to anticipate risk and actually transparently tell you when they're nearing a potential risk, so potentially you can weigh in early and help them. So Isaac, I'm going to start with you now. Risk. What are some of the warning signs that you see that say, we need to put a foot down here?
Well, but be careful what you wish for. Okay, so I guess two thoughts quickly. So one, and this is, I think, particularly inflected in Europe, but I think it's true more broadly, and that is initiatives and innovation that are public money funded alone. This is a perennial risk. I mean, we have a policy by which we very much view the value of public money deployment as being to start a fire that might not be burning otherwise, but it needs to then burn on its own. And so this perennial kind of bootstrapping of public money resources that are particularly available in Europe, I think, is a real risk, because it sort of can lull you into a sense of things are going well when they're really not, from a market traction perspective.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Megan, you have, I think it's 9 companies with a potential of 11 being under your collective belt. Obviously, you're excited about the 9 plus 2. What happens when you sort of say, that's a risk? What are the risks you're looking for?
Yeah. So as an early stage investor, because even Series A stage is still early, our job is to manage risk. So anything we invest in has risk. And I guess it's can we manage, mitigate the risk, or can we not? So it's what we have control over or not. And I think the deals that we've walked away with where the risk was too great is when it comes down to governance, as management was mentioned, and boards. So if there is risky on either of those things, it's very challenging to partner.
Thank you very, very much. Let's go over to Oliver. Oliver, obviously, you're a not-for-profit, but time is precious.
Yes.
What's the big risk?
We're lucky to be in the business of, being able to take a little bit more risk and really support the people behind the science. But even then, they're, like you said, you have to determine where you're going to spend your time. I think people is the number one thing that I would really look at, the quality of the team, the sophistication and coachability of the founders. And I would say this also applies to really any pre-seed, seed stage investor as well. Super important. The company's going to have to pivot in those early days.
Teachability of the founders. Great insight. Thank you very much. Arnab, the big risk.
The big risk.
So we probably have at least 11 to 50 risks. So I'm not worried about you repeating yourselves here.
Yeah, no. For us, it's really about Caliber Skags is 150 scientists who are reviewing actively the portfolio all the way from discovery to what's in phase 2 every week. It comes down to folks being okay with change and being willing to redeploy capital in different places. We were in CAR T cells back in 2012. We were in long-acting incretin peptides in 2012, back when those areas were essentially nearly unfundable. And we moved the science forward because we really believed it had the best impact.
Courage and vision, my friend. I like that. Thank you very much. Sebastian.
Yeah, from my side, I think death by pilot is probably one of the risks that we see, especially in the AI age today, where every single strategic has an AI mandate of some sort, and so they have this ARR that is, I'm not sure, recurring yet. They're willing to experiment, willing to try, but if you can't move that beyond kind of that pilot stage, that's a big warning sign for us.
Well, I'm going to quote that one, death by pilot. Deepak.
Yeah, great question. At the micro level, we are wary of one experiment away platforms without orthogonal validation. We are wary of startups with unclear regulatory routes, weak CMCs, and stories with no payer pathways. We are wary of business models that leave the key risks to the very end to be resolved. And we are wary of companies that rely on hiring a vice president of miracles in Q2. So we are wary of this. But most importantly, given the present climate at the macro level, you know that interest rates remain high. Crossover investors are relatively quiet and focusing on foundation AI model bets. And the IPO window is extraordinarily selective, which means runway math matters. So when we see founders without an appreciation of how macro risk implicates their own companies, that's a pass as well.
That's it. I also like the reimbursement. Who's going to pay for this? Christopher, risk.
We think we can absolutely predict the future. So we diversify our risk. We have companies in practically all sectors, from pharmaceuticals to cosmetics to devices to AI, of course. And since AI has been mentioned, I should say we all know that investment is a fashion business to some extent. We know that AI is very fashionable. We don't want to stay out of the fashion, but we also understand that sometimes it can hype up valuations in a very risky way. I believe NVIDIA is worth more than the whole of the pharmaceutical industry at the moment. To me, that's a very strange phenomena. And it's the kind of thing that happens. So diversification is absolutely the best thing that you can do
So
for risk.
concentration is for you is a risk. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's very insightful. Barbara, make sure you go off mute, but risk. Risk is the mute button for Barbara. That we've determined.
It is. My computer doesn't want to cooperate. What Oliver said was perfect about the leadership team. But one of the other risk factors that we really look into is not only because a lot of our companies come in, brilliant idea, want to get it to commercial, but they forget that whole middle section, regulatory and clinical. And that's so kind of the regulatory navigation. What is their best way to get through an FDA clearance, whether it's a 510K, PMA? What do they need to do? Do they need to do a clinical trial? Is it a validation, a verification trial? We work very closely then with our, those companies, with our partners at Mayo, finding out, can we do that? What's it going to take to do? The regulatory area is shifting quite a bit right now, especially with AI coming in. We have a lot of gray areas. So how do you prepare for a regulatory submission when there are no rules or guidances?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Ying, risks that you look at that are keeping you up at night.
Yeah, I keep it simple. To come down to a fundamental question. Are you developing something people have strong desire to use and pay? In the healthcare world, it means the clinicians are going to adopt this technology. The payers are willing to pay for that. Is there a pathway through FDA? And at this moment, are investors liking it or have a bad taste in their mouth? Like all these considered together, all back to the fundamental product market fit.
Thank you for that. Kika, now think of this. You had all this time to contemplate now your colleagues' answers. I answered your prayer. I'm calling on you last. What are the risks that you're considering?
Yeah, thank you. I was nodding my head to everything that everybody was saying because I think there's so many that we look at and there's not one formula or one lens that we look at every project with. Fortunately, at the Dobson Center, we are very early stage. We don't take any equity. So we do have, I guess, a little bit of a luxury to, take some risk on some riskier bets and see where it goes. But I think there does come a time where we have to evaluate whether this project is going to see the light of day.
Yeah.
And so for us, some of the key issues that we look at, and my colleagues have brought it up, but it's definitely team. So if you have team members that are like, what I'll say is that our expertise is really in the commercialization and developing the business acumen. So sometimes we have very talented founders, incredible scientific minds, but like the business side is just not connecting, and they're not diversifying their team to kind of complement it, and that coachability is not always there. So that for us kind of, it's very hard to bring to the next level. So that would be one. And I really, I echo Ian's sentiments that she just mentioned, that it has to be they have to be addressing a problem that's really a problem, and the solution that the market wants and that people are willing to pay for, and that patients and doctors will adopt. So those are the two kind of that come to mind. And somebody else did say something like death by pilots. So I think we've all seen startups that, stretched out the non-dilutive funding occasion after occasion, or clinical trials, and then they're not really getting any market traction. So that at some point.
I'll just say that the answers of how you choose partners and the risks that are on your dashboard, I think we take this part of the conversation and put it into the handbook, considering your expertise and your range of company types that you touch. I think anybody who is new to this field, who needs that coaching from an incubator, an accelerator, or private equity organization, if they listen to this 1 hour conversation, they will be golden. I've been in this space for quite some time. Your answers are phenomenal. Now, we only have 3 minutes left. It's hard to believe that this time together has gone so fast. I'm going to ask you for a 1-word answer. Literally, 1 word. And the answer is, when you take a look at the next hot thing to look at in terms of supporting in health innovation, what do you think it is? And you can obviously repeat each other's answers. It can be, sort of like biotherapeutics and oncology. It can be digital devices that are connected or wearables. It can be, AI-empowered decision-making tools, whatever you want. 1 or 2 words. That's it, please. In the 2 minutes we have left. I'm going to start with Megan. So she's going to sort of say, hey, this is going to be the hot area that we're going to focus in on over the next year. Megan, up to you. Those are 2 words. No.
Okay, I'm gonna say maternal health.
Okay, maternal health. Thank you. Isaac.
I'm going to say neuro and mental health.
Thank you. Deepak.
Programmable biology.
Thank you. Oliver.
Talent,
Arnab.
biotech talent.
Influenza.
Very good. Sebastian.
Self-driving labs.
Self-driving labs. Christopher.
Immunology, but I also want to tell Deepak.
No, that's it, my friend.
There are great holes in Italy.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. We'll get back to you. Barbara.
AI, get everything.
AI. Thank you. Ying.
AI and people.
Thank you. Kika.
Equity and access.
Thank you. Equity and access. That's what it's all about too. First of all, on behalf of the Galien Foundation, I want to thank each of you. You have been fabulous, collaborative panelists. I think that one of the superpowers of our field, and I think you feel this with your partners, is the power of collaboration. It's amazing. We have some of the greatest talent in the world. We certainly, in the United States and other developed nations, spend a tremendous amount of our GDP on health innovation. And obviously, we have some of the best health systems in the world from where each of you are coming from, whether it's the NHS or the Canadian health system or the US health system or other nations. And yet, we still haven't conquered non-communicable diseases. We still haven't really addressed some of the fundamental aspects of health equity. And at the core of this, you sit. On the behalf of the Galien Foundation, I want to thank each of you so much for participating in the Prix Galien and for what you're doing. You are fabulous. Stay in touch with each other. How many of you, by a show of hands, will be in New York City on Thursday? So many of you. Please, I'll be there. I wear, when I do wear a tie, I wear a bow tie. Obviously, with a beard and an academic background, I have to wear a bow tie. It's part of the uniform. But seek me out. I want to thank and acknowledge each of you when I see you. I'll tell you, having heard each of you, this was a very hard decision. Congratulations to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you, and I look forward to staying in touch. On behalf of the Galien Foundation, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.